Grand Theft Auto is dead. At least if this article is anything to go by, as Rockstar Games cleaned up its frat boy culture and Grand Theft Auto 2. With a new tone at the company and a change in creative direction, GTA 6 will probably feel very different from its predecessors. You can already guess exactly what this article is going to be all about. Basically, the company has decided to become a PC culture camp, and that is going to be reflected in their video game as well. No more taking the piss out of both sides, oh no. Now we have a strict left-leaning agenda to push, you see, which I'm sure will work out just fine in Grand Theft motherfucking Auto. A video game, oh god damn it. Alright, let me just read a little bit here before I get into it, because I have a rant or two on this topic. In the summer of 2020, after a police officer killed George Floyd... I'm on YouTube, I'm just gonna accept that. Rockstar Games quietly shelved a mode of play it planned to release for its Grand Theft Auto online game, called Cops and Crooks. The mode was a twist on the children's game where players organized into teams of good guys and bad guys, but seemed especially tone deaf during the global reckoning over police violence. In the case of George Floyd, the police violence was allowing a person to get out of the car because he was complaining about being dizzy, and then applying the standard textbook hold to the person on the ground. But hey, we're on YouTube here, so that's as far as we're gonna go on that one. Senior executives at the company, concerned about how the narrative might be interpreted during a time of heightened skepticism and mistrust of American police, put it aside, and they still have not revisited it since. This was one of several politically sensitive actions Rockstar, a division of Take-Two Interactive Software Inc., has taken in recent years. The company removed transphobic jokes from the most recent console release of Grand Theft Auto 5. This was in reference to a in-game action figure, mind you, which was like Captain He-She or something, a literal toy in the game that people were, of course, oh my god, this is transphobic, you're not allowed to make jokes against us, we are sacred cows, don't you understand? And significantly narrowed its gender pay gap, but didn't close it because, well, I'm sure nobody could ever explain why. Rockstar's next game, Grand Theft Auto 6, will include a playable female protagonist for the first time, who is Latina. You know what? I don't actually mind this, because apparently there's going to be a bit of a Bonnie and Clyde thing, and hey, Latina, not Latinx, so... You know, I don't mind. In fact, that could be kind of cool. The people said developers are being cautious not to punch down by making jokes about marginalized groups, the people said, in contrast to previous games. Because they also mention here that in previous titles, Grand Theft Auto 5 was a nihilistic parody that threw insults at everything the right-wing radio host to liberal politicians. And that is how it should be. Now, let me get into the little rant here. So, first and foremost, I have not played Grand Theft Auto 5. I own it, I've even installed it a couple of times, but I have never played it. And in large part, in fact almost exclusively, that is because of Grand Theft Auto 4, which I already thought wasn't a Grand Theft Auto game. I grew up on 2, and I played the hell out of 3, which was just amazing, by the way. And the entire point of 2 in particular, of 2 and 1, were to be, well, shocking. It's like, oh, you can just kill random civilians? My god, that's ridiculous. How can you do that? The cover of 2 was this, where you have a crosshair on a random car, just like a taxi with a person getting into it. At the time, this was shocking. Like, what do you mean you can just shoot random people? Are you insane? Video games are clearly violent. It'll turn us all into serial killers. Like, this was some spicy shit. And make no mistake about it, 3 changed the perspective, but kept the spicy pretty damn well and alive, it did. And it was also very, very diverse. It was a damn good game and ahead of its time in many ways. 4 was... I mean, already I thought 4 wasn't Grand Theft Auto. It was too slow, it had too much of a realistic idea to it, it was trying to tell like a serious story and shit, and It's like, I don't care. I don't care. And I definitely don't care about my cousins calling me on my phone every 5 minutes. I loathed it. And ever since, I've kind of been scared of picking it back up again, particularly as GTA 5 feels more like an online meme-ish MOBA game damn near than anything else, with all of the online modes and playing it and unlocking. It's like, it feels like a live service game, and I am inherently opposed to it. Now, I might be entirely off the bat there, but if I'm already reacting like this to 4, I don't want to think about what 6 might look like. And the beauty is, because they do bring up some valid points here as well. They talk about the ridiculous crunch, for example. What was they mentioned here? Like a 100-hour work week or something to get stuff ready. There we go. In October 2018, shortly before the release of Red Dead Redemption 2, Hauser, one of Rockstar's founders, said his team had been working 100-hour weeks to finish the game. A lot of crunch. Fair enough. That is a bad practice. Although I will also mention overtime. Well, it's a thing. It exists, and the best way to deal with it is to legislate it in the US on the state level by actual legislation rather than relying on the companies to do this. Because there are times when you actually do need to simply buckle down and finish a product. Hell, I'm a YouTuber, I make my own schedule, and if I didn't buckle down and finish shit, nothing would get done. Like, it is as simple as, you think like, oh, this project will take X amount of time. Yeah, it won't. Very, very much so won't. It is the simple reality of the thing, and we have gotten too spoiled on this thing as well, but again, 100-hour work weeks, yeah, there is some excess there, obviously. But they also talk about how they've been firing a bunch of people who haven't fit in with the new company culture, and now they've been hiring a lot more people to fill the same position. There was, I don't know where it was here exactly, but they mentioned firing one person for bullying and verbal abuse, and they'd replaced him with 3 more people, and now nobody could make any decisions. Apparently, Grand Theft Auto 6 has been in some sort of development since 2014. That is Bethesda levels of slow ass right there. And they've also scaled back their ambitions hugely. They mentioned here, that was the too many cooks in the kitchen one, where they mentioned that originally they were going to have a states system. They would have several state-sized things, and the map would be much larger than in 5. Whereas now they've scaled it back to something around a little bit the size of Miami, apparently. Like, okay, I mean, setting realistic goals for your game is good, but how much of your vision are you sacrificing here? Because this is a big problem as well. Like, a game like Grand Theft Auto, right? A game like Grand Theft Auto has a very clear vision and a very clear purpose. Again, you look at this cover here and you know exactly what GTA is about. I mean, the title, Grand Theft Auto. The core of the game is obvious. You are the bad guy, you are going to do bad guy shit, and you are going to have fun whilst doing it, because it's a video game, and you can simply cut loose, run over those civilians, and commit all kinds of heinous crimes for shits and giggles. You will play reprehensible characters that are complete dickwads, and you will enjoy it, because it's not real life. When, however, you start cutting down on this, when you start not taking the piss out of everyone, when you start censoring for very particular political ideas, etc., you're going to lose all of that original vision. You are going to lose what made Grand Theft Auto Grand Theft Auto. And when you then also began cutting back on features, you're no longer even going to have that kind of wow effect in the technological side of things. This is a complaint I've been bringing about again and again of Creative Assembly's Total War series, for example, where every entry seems to have less mechanics and less actual strategy game in it than the previous entry. And when they do add a new mechanic, it is either something incredibly simplistic like the logistics system in recent Total War game, which is nothing more than a bar that empties or fills depending on whether or not you are in friendly or enemy territory. And when they add in something actually genuinely new, like in Total War Warhammer, the idea of the underway, for example, where dwarf armies could travel underground, they swiftly turned that into a mechanic that damn near half of the races in the game have, in one way or another, but with slightly different names. Not to mention as well, we all know what this is gonna, like, the entire George Floyd thing, like, oh god, police violence is a problem. Do you know what game you are making? If anything, if you've actually been continuing the spirit of this once more, you hear about George Floyd and you immediately put in a mode where you have to kneel on people's neck to capture them. Because that is the point of GTA. It is to be socially disruptive. It is to be shocking. It is to be contrarian. It is to be the counterculture rather than simply absorbing the culture, bending the knee to it and becoming it. Which is what it sounds like you're doing. And the too many cooks in the kitchen thing, man, is that not a left-wing company? And just at there's the face value of it there. Oh hey, we've got a person, he's really good at what he does, but he's a bit of a dick. Right, okay, well, we're gonna fire him, and we're gonna replace him with 3 people who has to then design by committee, and not get anything done either. Probably because they were primarily hired based upon their appearances rather than actual skills at game design. Because here's the thing too, you can absolutely design things by committee. It is possible. If you've got people who fulfill one another well, you can have a good dialogue back and forth, you can bounce ideas off one another and improve upon them as you discuss them. That is absolutely a way to create good ideas via consensus, but you need good people at this. You need people at the same wavelengths, with the same kind of general ideas and an opportunity to improve upon those ideas. If you've got people who are already tied up in dogma, well, you're only going to get one sort of output, aren't you? You're not going to need 3 people for it. You're only going to introduce yet more confusion in the process. Again, this entire thing is the clearest sign of the fact that GTA is not, it's not Grand Theft Auto anymore. Because already it has seen a controversy, and instead of leaping on it, it has shied away. Oh god, oh no, violent cops in Grand Theft Auto? No, of course not, we can't have that. Like, that was half the joke of GTA, for God's sake. I mean, literally, you steal a car in Grand Theft Auto 1 or 2, and then eventually they'll send the military after you. But no, the conversation about police violence is something that GTA needs to be worried about. Absolute idiotic lunacy. Hell, maybe even we'll get some misunderstood characters that aren't really actually Bonnie and Clyde, which are pretty vile people, mind you, but instead simply misunderstood minorities fighting back against a repressive American regime. Well, on the bright side, it's the death of another major franchise, opening the door for maybe, you know, this again. Maybe somebody could do this again. You know, kind of like Saints Row did at one point, where they decided, you know what? We're not going to be just a Grand Theft Auto clone. Instead, we're going to be a wacky, crazy, off-the-wall, absurd, fun version of Grand Theft Auto. Of course, right now, they're doing the they-them thing as well, but such is the end of every franchise, I suppose. Better it dies now with a great big fat boom than in 10 more years, I suppose. So, yeah. If you're waiting for Grand Theft Auto 6, I urge you to realign your expectations rather drastically. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for watching, and I hope to see you all again soon. Have a good and non-controversial day.